real kind. We're gonna have a good time. Let's get the meaning down. We're gonna spread being nice around. You just go right ahead, because it's here and it's now. Just move every bone to a cosmic powwow. Cosmic powwow. Cosmic powwow.
Well, good evening, everybody. Here we are again for our second live show of Toward a Quality of Life. And I hope all the people in Boston are having a fairly nice fall and a nice evening and are ready to get their thinking caps on and join us and perhaps call in some questions, comments, or responses to what we'll be talking about tonight. Last week, or I should say last month, it's been a few weeks, we're currently going on once a month, I asked the question, generally speaking, what are we living for? Asking people to respond to that question, give us ideas, get a dialogue going, interactive TV. And the corollary to that is it even worth examining, or should we just rush headlong into basically our graves? Now, as is usual, I'd like to run past a few things. So many things go by, you, myself, and everyone every day, to which proper attention is not given, and no dialogue is open for us to be discussing and finding our way through all these pressing issues. Today I'm going to take up one in particular, which is the issue of media. Media as it relates to a contingency, a mighty huge conditioning contingency that pervades our psychology, pervades our mindset, pervades our behavior, is the diet, is the foodstuff of who we are, how we think, how we're reacting, what we believe, and how we see the world. And once again, you may remember last time we talked about contingencies being those conditional events to which behavior is incidental or upon which behavior is dependent. So what that means is contingencies are all those psychosocial, physiological, physical, experiential, location, weather, environment, aesthetics, feelings, emotions, interpersonal experiences, all these things as they impinge on us as an input, having an effect on who and what we are as an output. And so we come, of course, to media, and the number one media, with internet gaining fast at its heels, the number one media, the Rupert Murdoch and Turner Media, the Walt Disney and General Electric Media, Westinghouse Media, is television. And television is our diet. And unfortunately, I have to point out how so much of television is damaging and destructive. Now, the reason this came to my attention this time, although it does often, was in the aftermath and in the prelude to the election, when after the election came to pass, the media was immediately telling people what was going to happen, who was going to be nasty, who felt disappointed, who was going to be backbiting, how things were going to be. And yet that wasn't even hearsay, because no one about whom they were speaking was literally saying these things, but the media was saying these things. The media, unfortunately, has come down to sort of the lowest form of verbalization we have about each other, kind of like what people used to do over the clothesline, neighbor to neighbor. Did you hear what so-and-so said? Or, I can't stand that guy, do you know what he did? And so on. This is the kind of thing that is going through our television airwaves and into us. We're also talking about people's hair. We're talking about what people are wearing. We're talking about what O.J. Simpson said in a limo because of a tape that was found on the floor of a limo. This is so private, pardon me, it's practically like being in a urinal with somebody and being that personal, being at their windows, which people are, the media is at the windows of people they're interested in, putting their cameras right into people's homes. This is very low form of human behavior. It's the kind of behavior through science and history and over getting away from old tradition we were trying to get beyond. We were trying to evolve and graduate to another stage of psychosocial development. Now, in a way, it's not even the fault of candidates if you look carefully as to why so much negativity and backbiting, nasty things are being said, because it's only those things upon which the media picks up, and it's those things that the media points out. Take a test of it to see if what I'm saying is true. Does the media pour over how difficult it may be for a legislative person to be poring over Medicare figures and the arduous work and the details of what that might be like? Or do they go through the details of what it's like to make a decision about sending troops to Haiti and all the even though you couldn't know it, very intimately, but all the complicated variables that and pressures that would go into play? No, but about people's hair and about how they dislike each other and are rotten to each other or want to defame each other, we have this as a constant diet. The media is waiting for slip-ups. The media is creating rumors so that, just like Devo told us, a rock group from the 80s, we are devolving instead of evolving. We are de-educating ourselves and de-educating our children. Now, there's fierce competition in the media. So when you're in such a tight situation, you want everything to be sensational. And no one is keeping the gate as to what should come in or out. In the past, I've heard some veteran reporters talk about how so much that gets through today would never get through because people would say, no way. They would realize there's no way to know if this is true. And furthermore, such a thing doesn't belong on the television. For example, the tape of O.J. in a limo somewhere doesn't belong on television. So we're seeing people at their basest and their most prurient. This is what we were supposed to be going beyond. We're supposed to be bigger and nobler, sophisticated, scientific, rational, futuristic, and humane. Now, serious issues are entertainment. Entertainment is entertainment, and serious issues are entertainment. And Lord knows, as you live your life, there's plenty to be talking about that comes down hard on you that has nothing to do with entertainment and should not be treated that way. And it's also no wonder that we are cynical, because such a cynical and non-serious low-base approach is taken. Now, even I might point out to you, you know that one Channel E has dared to enact the O.J. trial, the travesty of travesties, to have actors of a trial that has not even come to pass fully acting out what is going on in the courtroom, and yet nobody seems to object. Okay. I think what we've forgotten too is to take the adversarial view is to take, excuse me, we were just having a little difficulty here. To take the adversarial view is not to be antagonistic. For example, if somebody favors gay rights, then the person would be questioned, do you realize that this is a lifestyle which many people cannot accept? If the person is not favorable to gay rights, the question will be, do you realize that you are excluding a lot of people? The questions are always antagonistic.
Nancy, before we go on to talk about other further issues here. We are having a call come in.
Great.
But I think the one thing that I'd like to mention to you is that it sounds like we're talking about tabloid journalism.
No, I'm talking about mainstream television.
So,
I'm sorry to say, and I do watch what's going on with it. I'm talking about the coverage of the three main candidates. I'm talking about the news.
So we're not just talking about newspapers here. We're talking.
In fact, it's recently been told that many things probably, but one thing recently that Newsweek reported they got from the tabloids. It's coming to pass that the so-called mainstream media is using tabloids for information.
Let's see if we have that call. Can we have your call, please? Hello.
Hi, Nancy.
Can we have your call?
Hello.
Yes.
Hi, John.
Yes.
How are you? You're a handsome man. Nancy, first time, long time. I'd just like to speak a little bit about, I totally agree with what you're saying today about, people being very antagonistic. I find that people are very offensive to me all the time. And not even about my views, just about the way I look and the way I crop my hair. People are too quick to jump on people nowadays, and I totally agree with you.
Okay, do you want to ask Nancy a question?
Yes.
Comment on that? Okay.
Nancy?
Yes.
Did you support the governor?
William Weld?
Yes.
I would like to stay impartial about that at the present time, but I will tell you this. I am a mental health practitioner. I love the mentally ill. Some of you may laugh when I say that. And they are out on the street living in the cruel conditions. I would plead with the governor to open the state hospitals once again and give them some warmth and some food in their bellies.
Hey, that's not something the governor's going to do. I think he's an evil man.
In order to be humane, we always must take care of our people who cannot take care of themselves.
Yeah, I know. I sympathize with you. I think the governor's an evil man, though.
All right. Well, the context and theme of tonight's program, however, is about the media.
Briefly,
did you want to go into that?
Just tell me one comment. Why do you think the governor is evil?
He's the devil incarnate. He's Kaiser Sose.
Well,
I just think that he's got his own agenda. It's not for the best interest of the Commonwealth.
Well, we're definitely trying to do just what is good for us in a very everyday kind of way. And what are you living for, sir?
What am I living for?
Yes.
I'm living for myself.
For yourself. That's an honest answer. I think in a way, no matter how noble or humanitarian we get, we also know philosophically, if we search our souls, in the end, you are living for yourself. You come in alone and you die alone, and you're responsible alone for yourself. And if there's one piece of food and starvation conditions and two people need it and they're best of friends, we could understand the situation where one would be driven to devour the food from the other, I suppose, okay? Although there are circumstances where under the most dire conditions people share food, which is a level of almost like a nirvana level of consciousness. I had a friend of mine tell me that if you ever hear stories about people on a crashing plane helping each other out, don't believe them. When a plane crashes, it's everybody panicking and going crazy. So, but I do believe there are instances of that highest form of love where when it's your own survival, there are instances.
Thank you very much.
And I want to say one more thing. Hopefully that if you were in that higher form of love, which I'm not saying that I'm at that level, certainly, it would be beyond just because it's your child. If you could just do that to another human being or even an animal, that would be quite a stage of consciousness.
I love animals.
I do too.
Thank you for calling.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, John. You're a very handsome man.
What else did you want to...
Okay. So then I was saying, now if you're feeling that people are antagonistic to you, as that caller mentioned, I'm saying that our antagonism and attitude towards each other has a lot to do with the contingencies, and our contingency, huge contingency that we are dosing ourselves with and our children every day, is television. So it's not just entertainment. It's not just, what else do we have? Are we sitting around talking to each other, getting ideas, or telling each other what we think? Or are we learning about our world and how we behave through the television? We're learning about it through the television. Now, in the past, books and art and music and folklore and politics and all these things would tell us what a culture was like. So we know about our culture by knowing about television. That's how history will read the culture. It will read television and tell us what our culture is. Books are very not much part of our diet. Communication with each other is not. Family time is very small. And also remember too, if you question this, how we used to talk about being brought up on the Leave It to Beaver model, that we all had families we felt should be like Leave It to Beaver, and we found out that our families weren't, as an example of how pervasive television is. Now, listen to the things on television and then see what are you going to expect for the kind of life you live. Girls being subdued to sex. Try the channels and look at what's going on. Explosions, malicious designs, rape, graphic representations, incessant backbitings, one's putting one down, all these sitcoms, one puts one puts one down better, derogation, incessant. And commercials, which never get you anywhere. Your head is full of commercials. Now, I ask you, if you were just left alone, would you go up to a table and watch a loaf of bread close up being sliced and look at all the holes and texture of the bread for 30 seconds? Or would you go to a toilet bowl and look down in the water being very carefully as it sloshes from a cleaner? You wouldn't do such a foolish thing, but your eyes are looking at these kinds of images and your brain is getting filled with this kind of a diet for a great percentage of the time you're watching TV.
Could I just interject
Absolutely.
for 1 second? I do have a question as you were going over that, and I was thinking, aren't people sophisticated enough to discern this information coming over television? I mean, when you're sitting watching TV, a person, I would imagine, is sophisticated enough to know that some of these things are being done as an exaggeration deliberately for to focus on a certain issue. That doesn't mean that you'd have to be brainwashed with everything that comes over on television.
Right. It's not a matter of brainwashing, it's a matter of conditioning, and you are what you see. The children love the things they see. They act out the things they see. We have a call coming in.
Okay. Can we have your...
I'd like to remember
Sure.
that question.
Sure.
Though.
Can
Yes.
we have your question, please?
Hello?
Yes.
Yes.
Hello?
Yes, we can hear you.
I can't hear you.
Okay, we can hear you, so why don't you just ask the question?
I have a comment about the media, and I wonder what you two think of this.
Okay.
I think we have our own intelligentsia, and I don't think the media, if you're really intelligent, can affect you. But I think as an audience, what we have to do is do more than just press the channel. We have to call up the station and tell them that we don't like what they're playing on that station. If we just sit back and keep on pressing the channel, we're really not doing anything. So I think that I think there's good media and I think there's bad media, and I think we get as much bad media as we allow them to give us. And I'll hang up and see what you and Nancy think about that.
Thank you very much. That's a very good question.
Thank you.
I agree with that comment. I call myself, especially if you hear somebody telling something that you know is untrue. You should call up, and frequently it's very hard to get through. A lot of the shows have it such that you can't get through, because I've tried to say, excuse me, but something you're doing is either false or not proper. But back to what you were talking about. You said, are people really
sophisticated enough to discern what's coming over the airwaves?
Look, let's look at the movies that Clint Eastwood made. when he first started making them. Was it in the 60s? He made these movies of an apathetic, non-feeling, easy to kill you or not kill you if he needed to kind of motif and ethic. And look how the country has come. I'm not holding him solely responsible, but remember when he said, "Make my day," and couldn't think of how these influences bombard you, and after a while your ethic and your motif changes. The media eats away at you, even though you can tell it's not real. It still provides a way of living. Look at the Bill Cosby show and how many people that has influenced as a way of living. Whatever was the substance of that show, it had a huge impact. Or the Archie Bunker show had a huge impact on people. Yes, you know that it's television. Children don't know that. I mean, for children, it's a one-to-one thing, especially as children are alone a lot. They're not otherwise having some way to think about things or figure them out. TV is the line of
communication.
It's not really, it's a one-way communication. It takes two to communicate, but TV is the influence, and TV is the conditioner. People wonder, both consciously and subconsciously, why is my life not like TV? Beautiful cars and women and pools that you jump in and sip a Sprite are like magically available. It's the norm. This is how you should be living, and people see themselves at jobs they feel are dreary, and there they are, and the clock is ticking away, and this is what a life could be like, but it's not the life. So it causes a discrepancy and a frustration. Again, the younger you are, the more
impressionable you might be.
The more. But even take politics. The way the nation is so worked up and divided.
Well, when you were talking about at the beginning of the program about how the media is so essential and so important in politics, I was thinking back to the 1960 race between Richard Nixon and John Kennedy, where both of those candidates had been on television on a debate from Chicago, and it's widely believed now that because Nixon came across as being, well, he was ill at the time. He was sick at the time.
He had just concluded a hospital stay.
And John Kennedy was younger and more attractive on television, and as a result, people were more attracted to this particular candidate.
Yeah.
I think that might be a good example that you were referring to.
Yeah, that's a different story, how you come across on the media. I'm just saying, regardless of how you come across, it has an influence, and you could come across as an evildoer, the Clint Eastwood type that can kill with indifference. Okay, or a Rambo, or what's his name, Arnold Schwarzenegger. You can come across as one of those, and have a powerful influence, and you can come across as Mother Teresa, and possibly have a less powerful influence if we go look at what products are being sold, what lifestyles are being promoted, what's on people's minds when they think of who they'd like to be and who they'd like to see. I think the reality speaks for itself. So any kind of thing can be powerful on television, for the better, for the worse. That's a separate issue of how powerful the delivery is. So, and even I would like to say television is more powerful than music. Music is always maligned. Television, constant killing, and the kind of killing too, you'll note, I flipped by many things. They kill once, the person should be more than dead, and 2 seconds later, he or she manages to pick something up and they revive from what should be a lethal dose, and they come back for more, and a second death happens almost, and they still revive just to keep up that attention. It's shock attention. It's like when you're on the highway and you see an accident and the car slowed down, because even though it might be gory to you, you're prone. It's not that television is delivering what people want. It's delivering things that you can't help but pay attention to. They command your attention.
We talked about shock value.
Shock value forces your attention. You can't help but say, you can't help it. It's instinctual, as the saying goes. Now, and the other thing is, too, that like on the sitcoms, the Drew Carey Show, the Roseanne Show, I love both of them. I love Will Smith. And, I can see between the lines, but still, it's a constant put down. The shows are about derogation. And then at the end, somehow the parent pulls through for the child or vice versa, and so on. And real love and real cooperation and real humanity cannot happen this way. Real love and cooperation, if we're going to have a better society, has to come about by the painful step-by-step kindness, tolerance, and communication with each other in real life.
But Nancy, didn't that happen on the Beaver show and on the Donna Reed show and all of these shows in the 50s? All of those factors were involved in these programs. I mean, people did communicate. People were nice to each other. There weren't murders and there weren't all of these bad things that were going on. The 50s had this about itself. That whole decade had that in the TV programs.
Well, there were a lot of murders. Remember, Hitchcock was very famous at that time, coming to his... And also, I'm not talking about a false kind of cooperation. Not something that's fictitious, that magically happens, that people get into school or win a prize or everything works out almost like by magic. Mm-hmm. I'm talking about the real struggle of working together. And when I talk about that, what comes to mind is a movie called Heartland, which very few people have seen, which was a very real movie about two people making a stake in a place such as Wyoming, I believe, before there was industry and technology, many years ago in the very cold. And it showed what it would be like to try to make a farm and live through the bitter cold and have
like
a child.
Like the settling of the Old West.
A true representation, not a shoot 'em up and just a sort of a fictionalized slice of something made to portray something to entertain you. So when I talk about cooperation, it's not the soupy sweet stuff like the Brady Bunch or something, because life can't work that way. No, the Brady Bunch's life doesn't work that way. The people who live in Hollywood's life doesn't work that way, and they'll tell you that. Michael Jackson's life, any of the great stars, Michael Jordan's life, they are living intense lives. It may look good when you see them for the media, but their lives are extraordinarily intense and pressured and oftentimes quite uncomfortable, even though they may not choose another way to live. They're used to that way. So what I'm saying is that cooperation and humanity comes with step-by-step, tiny steps of building trust. And it doesn't even come, believe it or not, with religion or philosophy, where you just believe or you say you love people. It comes with practicing. It doesn't matter if you have religion or philosophy or anything. It matters how you really are, what you really think, and what you really do. And that's what's so hard. And that's what we're not making much progress on. Our emotions and the way we treat each other and feel about each other have not progressed enough. We're still kind of barbaric on that score. We care about going to the moon, we care about developing new drugs, but we don't want to look in the mirror and try to be nicer to each other and try to understand and try to tolerate and try to accept, and we'll never even get to that if we don't talk.
What about the other aspect of television? We're talking about the news programs, and the press comprises everything, I know, but what about newspapers? I mentioned before briefly tabloid journalism. You get a lot of these papers that just, for the sake of selling papers, they have these bold, excitable headlines on the front page.
And back to the Michael Jackson, that's who was handling the Michael Jackson. It wasn't the New York Times. Mm-hmm. I mean, that's where all of this broke. But what about newspapers? I believe TV is a way more powerful influence that newspapers are going by the wayside.
So more people are watching TV, of course.
The internet and communications like that regarding news, we've got a call coming, is what's taking its place. And the internet, as you know, they tell you every day, is really wild as to the veracity. much wilder still. For example, the missile issue, Salinger and his papers that he said he received about a missile in the TWA flight that went down, found to have come, as far as we know, off the internet just from people saying that.
We
don't really know again. We don't know.
We have a question. Can we have a question, please?
Hi, John. Hi, Nancy.
Yes, could we hear you louder, please?
Hi, John. Hi, Nancy.
Hi, how are you?
Good. This is Paul. Yep.
Hi, Paul. How are you? Paul is another producer here at BNN TV.
Paul Helen.
Yep.
Hello, Paul.
How you doing?
All right.
I have no question. I just want to say the show is excellent.
Thank you. Thank
you very much.
Don't go. Thank you for calling. And Paul, what are you living for?
For TV, this is fantastic.
Oh.
Thank you, Paul. You know, I wanted to bring out, thank you very much for your comment, Paul. I wanted to bring out also, because I had mentioned the 50s and the situation comedies that were kind of light and fluffy, but television provides also a media for people to know what's going on everywhere. And shows like this, public access, BNN TV, for example, other programs, community service programming, all help to ensure that people get information that they probably wouldn't get otherwise, or access to particular programs that they wouldn't have anywhere else. And that all comes through television. And of course the shopping network as well.
And as far as that goes regarding information, we need so much more. The television gives us very little. They take a sensationalistic story about who said what about whom, and give you the nitty-gritty repeated details, like if someone is murdered and so on, God forbid, you know, how they felt and what's the next stage of the case, and they repeat it several times a day, so that you're not getting enough information about a lot of things that are happening that you really need to know. About environment, for example, or about the products that you're using. You know, very detailed. So much more could go on. International information. We're very parochial in this country. I've noticed channel 44 and one of the cable channels now is doing a little global news, which is a great thing, but we definitely need to expand knowing what's going on in the world more, not from a domestic perspective, but from what those countries are doing. As people in other countries are more aware than ourselves, it's long been said, you know, how they know more about the world than we do. Now, let's take the case of Zaire, which currently people fighting for food. It's a very sad, gruesome video. That video gets repeated over and over again because it's so gruesome. It's so shocking. People running for food, I don't know if you've seen it, and they get a new one from time to time, and they love to throw that. You know, how many times should we be seeing that? Should we just be hearing maybe in words? Wouldn't it be preferable, not to censor, but wouldn't it be preferable to explain in very detail what is the war in Zaire? How did people end up in such a situation? Instead of just seeing that gruesome video over and over again.
And it looks like we have another phone call. Can we have your question, please?
Yeah, good evening.
Good evening.
Nancy, hello, and John, hello.
Good evening. How are you tonight?
Okay, I'm fine. Thanks very much. I don't really have a question per se, but I would like to just make a few quick comments.
Okay.
In my own personal belief, I think that human beings are discriminating animals, and what you choose to have to come into your living room is a function or it's a reflection of your own mental state. I believe that you don't have to watch these stupid situation comedies. There's the Discovery Channel and the History Channel and, you know, PBS and all that sort of thing. So, and as to what I personally live for, it's for growth, intellectual growth, emotional growth, and I subscribe to the theory that nothing in nature stays static, and that in fact you either grow or you perish. That's all I have to say. Thank you.
Yes, sir.
Yes.
Would you say, however, how do you grow mostly, or try to grow? How do you?
Well, I think there's a lot of ways you can grow. I mean, I don't want to get into the religious rap, but just prayer, meditation, developing new friends. Don't be afraid to if you're elderly, don't be afraid to make new friends because you feel it's too much of an effort for you, or conversely, if you're young, don't look at old people and think that they're obsolete, when in fact they're walking reservoirs of experience and history, and they've lived full lives, and they certainly or should be teachers, and that's the way that I try to learn.
Yes, sir. They should be our teachers, and they should be integrated into the life that we are living. Wouldn't you agree? Rather than separated in nursing homes,
they are warehoused. There's no question about it. Yeah, people farm them out. I mean, it's
elderly should not be just with elderly.
No, absolutely not.
And children should not be just with children.
Right. Well, that's kind of what I was saying in another way. I think we can learn from each other. I think the elderly can learn from the young. I mean, myself, I'm into my 6th decade, and I work with young people, and I learn as much from the kids of 19, 20, 17 as I do from someone, my own age. So I think that's all part of life.
Well, let's just look at what a child, for example, would cherish if a child had a great grandparent to be running home from school to, go on a picnic with, go fishing with, even watch TV with, eat with, have food prepared from. What would a child have for a life experience and love and memories to carry away versus just having a television, for example? Which would be the richer, truer human experience? I guess that caller is gone.
Okay, I think we have another call. Can we have your question, please?
Hello?
Hi.
Can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
I would like to say I like this show. I'm just turning the TV and I like it.
Thank you.
What I want to say is there's enough ignorance and enough misunderstanding to go around for everybody. And America itself, it seems like that half the truth is being told. Like when you come to the media, it's not a bias. The news is not biased. It's nothing really biased, really. If it's black owned, it's not going to be biased. It's going to be a black perspective. What I think is we do need more shows like this. I think it's going to take more than a half an hour to correct what's been going on for like 400 years and before. My point is basically there's no sorry. There's no apologies for like the Indians that died for this land. I mean, we sing this land is your land, this land is my land, but you killed Indians to take their land. I mean, is land more important than life? And I think basically it's about black and white, and this war is and more, but the main thing is black and white.
Are you talking racial, sir, when you say black and white?
Yeah. I believe that you have a right to your opinions. I believe people who want to get together should do so, but those who don't, we can't make them. What I've learned is that you cannot judge everybody collectively. You got to judge them one by one.
Exactly.
And like I said, I like and why I'm living is to see things right.
Could you say that louder, sir? You're living for?
I'm living to see things rightly. I just want the truth, the righteousness, and all the good stuff. That's all I want. But I like the show, and you can just comment on what I said.
Well, thank you very much. We're very happy to hear that you like it, and we're glad that you called.
All right.
Nancy, did you want to comment?
Thank you. We have a few minutes. I think we're all living for truth, believe it or not. Not the abstract symbolic truth. We're all living for truth, and we're all living for justice. We may be here many times over. We're going to be passing this way again. I say that loosely. We may pass this way again, we may not. We can literally be living for truth and justice and brotherhood and be nowhere near it, in fact running away from it, but it doesn't change the fact that that is possibly what is a reason to live. I mean, I'm not trying to give a reason to live, but we could all have that in us. We certainly know we all have a sense of what is fair and a feeling that fairness has not been given to us. We all know, oh, this is unfair, or we're in a rage. So we're possibly all living for truth. And yet, the irony of it is, we could possibly, in the majority, be living to go away from truth, to deny truth. Excuse me, we're having some...
I'd like to remind our home audience in this last 5 minutes of the program, please give us a call. Our number here, we're cablecasting live right here from the Roxbury studio. Our number is 742-3333. Again, that's 742-3333. We're cablecasting live right here from City Place, BNN TV, and you're watching us on Channel 23. So the last 5 minutes of our program, you can give us a call.
We have 5 minutes? Okay. Now, back to the issue of Indians, as the caller mentioned. We have not really opened up that issue in this country. Not to make it an issue, but that is our history. We have not opened up the issue of many situations such as that in this country. We've not opened up Vietnam in this country. So we're not talking about right or wrong, we're just talking about
history.
History, which is a subject Mr. Fahey teaches in the Boston Public Schools.
But Nancy, talking about the Indians and about America and history, going back 500 years, we can't blame society today for what happened 500 years ago. We can correct it certainly and ensure that it doesn't happen again, but we can't really do much about 500 years ago.
We can never ensure that something doesn't happen again, number one. Bosnia is an example. We can never ensure that it won't happen again, but the idea being that information, when you say we get a lot of information, maybe we're not getting a lot of, not just the information that's so difficult to
decipher,
to accept, not just that information, but so much information that really is a part of the life and the struggle, not just from a social kind of view, but things that are part of our real life, not just entertainment or glitzy or glamorous, but that have
relevance,
literally made and broken us and been an integral part of what it's been like to live and have human experience.
Nancy, in the last few moments of our program, I see we only have about 4 minutes left. Would you like to sum up? I know you have a few things you want to say.
Let's sum up. Let's sum up that we don't blunt and kill humanity and decency in our children by lambasting them with conflict and aggression and killing for killing's sake, and send them out to an uncalm environment to boot on their own, and then wonder why they choose survivalism over their parents. Let us show truth, just as the caller says, in the real here and now, laughing, crying, sharing, hurting, trying to achieve in the real world here and now. We don't want to accept things as they are. We don't want to accept ourselves as we are. When I'm asking what are we living for, one of the things is, why just be a blob on a couch? Can't we get something better out of this after all is said and done? What is it you have lived for? What is the meaning that you're going to have lived with and lived for? Now, we always end with a few pointers in general. Number one, don't use garbage bags or paper towels if you can at all help it. Every time you're pulling at paper towels just to sop something up, you're pulling down trees. We need the trees for shade. We need the trees for temperature control. We need the trees for carbon dioxide exchange. We need the trees for the beautiful sight they give our eyes. Try to limit your use of paper towel and garbage bags. Reuse all paper, reuse all plastic if you can. Get outside. We said this before. Try to make some time to experience, even if it's winter. I'm trying to tell myself, love it for what it is. Know nature. Then you don't have to wonder, oh gee, how come there was 14 feet of snow? How come it snowed for 5 days in Ohio? How come something like this happens in early November? Gee, how come all these floods? How come earthquakes? Get outside. Know nature. If you can't get outside, try to get yourself near a window. We're talking about arranging the contingencies of our life to get a better quality out of it, just not only so we'll feel better, but that we really will have a better life. Poison all around you. I just had someone tell me their child was rushed to the hospital because he put a magic marker in his mouth. Got very ill, very violently ill, and also on the news, so to speak, this week it was said how rugs contain pesticides because you track them in and then your babies crawl on them. Your babies are also around magic markers and so many toxic things. Be aware of toxins. Smell them. Say, if I took a teaspoonful of this, what would happen to me that I'm getting either in my smell or so on? Think. No, don't just be passive. Don't be a couch potato. Look around, think, ask questions, ask why. Remember the animals. We always remember the animals. And this time it's come to my attention how people so-called have pets and then leave them because they move. And thinking of how cruel that is to animals who are left behind.
Nancy,
Yes.
I would like to, just because we're running short for time here, just to tell our home audience, we would like to thank you for calling. We enjoyed hearing all of your comments, and also I'd like to give it over to Nancy now. And Nancy, tell us about the upcoming shows. For those of you who are watching our program tonight, just to let you know, we will be having additional shows in the future, and I'll let Nancy talk about that.
Okay, December 19th, we'll be here on a Thursday. Get ready to tell us, what are you living for? Get ready to talk right here live. And we'll be back in January, but the date is not known. I will tell you on the 19th of December. And in the interim, you can be looking on the bulletin board on Channel 3 and 23 for a list of the show Toward a Quality of Life. Also, I will be singing live jazz on Channel 23 next Tuesday at 8 p.m. if you can tune in. And I wish you well. I thank you for watching. Think. Stop and think.
It's fun and it's one. It's us cosmic powwow. Cosmic powwow. Cosmic powwow. Cosmic powwow.